What up, everybody? Welcome. You know what? All right, so here's the deal. I make every effort to be as professional as possible. Every time I turn on this camera, and when I get the most professional person probably to grace my podcast, of course, I have tomfoolery to start the show. Welcome everyone to episode 45 of the Fanatic Sports Podcast. Very excited for another big episode today. With me today is William McBroom, WVFS Sports Director, host of Early Returns, and the host of Tomahawk Talk. Welcome, Mr. McBroom. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Man, very excited to have you. Very excited to talk. So a little bit about me. I'm from Arkansas originally, so I am a Homer and a Hogs fan. But I live down in Baton Rouge now. And so I talk a lot of SEC football. This show works diligently to be on but to take the entire Southeast region. So actually the South, I guess it would be from Texas to Florida is my goal. And so it's really, really cool to meet people from outside of the SEC. That I hate to sound like a homer, but they say, it means more. And I'll be honest with you. During my day job, I work at a hotel in the day. And so there's a big amount, like it really does. And I'm sure it's probably the same in Tallahassee for you guys, what it means for the hospitality industry, for the city as a whole, for home football weekends, during football season. It's a blast, but it's a ton of work. I'm sure it's the same for you guys as well. Is that right?
Oh, it's huge. There's nothing like it. You spend the other 7-8 months of the year, baseball, basketball season. It's a big deal. People get excited.
Sure.
Game day in Tallahassee. You can tell by the traffic. All right, it's unbelievable just the influx of people you get for any given Saturday during the year. Of course, last year maybe a little bit toned down due to how the season went, but
yeah, and I wanted to visit on that briefly. I don't want to kill. I don't want everybody.
Not too much.
I don't want your viewers to hate me before they see me. But that was that time. So to be fair, so when I moved here in 2020, I think I brought my bad juju down here and poured it in on LSU because they stunk after they won the championship. And like I said, looking at it from the hospitality industry, there was a big difference when, with the team not being as good as they had obviously been the year before. It really means a lot, man. But also, again, really means a lot to have you on here with us. Certainly a pleasure. Tell everybody a little bit about, you and where they can find you, and then we'll kind of get going.
Yeah, definitely. So I have taken over as of this summer as the sports director at WVFS Tallahassee. We have a live radio show every Monday. We cover various Florida State sports on our website as well, V89 Sports, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere like that. We're also starting this year now doing post-game shows, probably going to be Sunday morning for most of them, some pre-recorded shows after the game, hopefully have some better results to talk about. And then I also host my personal podcast called Early Returns that you mentioned earlier, with my good friend David Jarrett, who I met in V89. And it's basically just us. It's kind of crazy because the amount of prep that we do in terms of, watching the games, et cetera, is crazy. But in terms of lining up the show, we kind of just log on, and it's kind of just two guys just talking college football. We'll go an hour and a half sometimes and be like, oh, we probably should wrap this up here pretty soon because we can just get going. It's great. Love what I'm doing.
Yeah, man, it's a blast to get to do this. It's a blast to get to meet people like yourself and many others. And again, I can't say thank you enough, man, because, I don't know you from a can of paint yet, man, but just I saw you, I think you did something or supported something I did. And it's like, man, hey, thank you. Love to have you on the show. Love to talk, man. And that's the beauty of sports in general. But when we talk about the great religion of college football, man, you can just go for 90 minutes, and next thing you'll blink your eyes twice, and it's been 2 hours, and you wouldn't even thought about it. So it's definitely a blast just to get to have those conversations and some of the topics, even in the off season as it gets going. So that is a blast. Also, happy week 0. any thoughts on week 0?
Yeah, well, first of all, what a way to start off the season with that Iowa State-Kansas State game. First half, it looked like two teams that had to travel all the way across the world to play a game because he had fumbles, he had just a ton of turnovers, some missed tackles, a lot of penalties, especially on Kansas State. But that's Big 12 football, though. It's the conference with the most parity by far. I mean, you look at the odds going into the year. 5 teams were within a really close range of each other in terms of being conference favorites. I think it was K-State, but they were still like plus 650.
Okay.
Like it was crazy. And then, I'm the type of sicko who will sit and watch every single game I possibly can. You better believe I was watching, my Western Kentucky Hilltoppers also having lived in Bowling Green at one point. Yeah. So
okay.
a lot of great games there. And, a few of my picks did miss. I thought Kansas State was going to get the win, but my Hawaii pick got saved there at the end. So that was cool to see.
So I actually went with Iowa State. I'm gonna tell you something. That Rocco Beck kid, it's something about him. I dare to put him in the same vein as a Tim Tebow with all that Tim Tebow accomplished in college, but the reason I kind of bring that comparison up is because Rocco Beck's, he's not the fastest, he's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, not a big arm, not even a very accurate quarterback, just statistically and some of the things you see. But this kid's just got that, as the French call it, that je ne sais quoi, right? And so he just got it. And I mean, we saw it on that 4th and 3 play where, look, you need 3. He's gonna give you 3. He's gonna give you 4. I mean, he's got that kind of ability, and I know a lot of people are going to question him after the 2 big names that left at wide receiver, which ironically they both ended up at Houston. But it may not be much irony at all. It might have been playing, but with both of those guys leaving, I know a lot of people are going to question his can he still be the same playmaker? And I believe that he showed that he can, and I think he will all year long. I'm excited to see what they're doing. And defensively, they've got some studs, and that's what I was which I know they were going to hang their hat on, but that's what I'm expecting is that all year long they're going to be a dark horse team just because of how well that defense is going to play. So pretty cool to see that. But yeah, that was my pick, man.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on Beck. I mean, it's overused, but he's just kind of got that like it factor. That's just kind of the best way you can explain it. And I was kind of skeptical with Higgins and Noel both going to the NFL. Looking at the receiving core, I was like, I don't really know if they can get to kind of that same point. And I was also impressed with, as much as early in the game, especially with Sama at running back, it wasn't going great, but they stuck with the run game, which is something Matt Campbell emphasized a lot heading into it. So I was a lot more balanced attack that they had there that I think worked in their favor that Kansas State just wasn't able to replicate once Dylan Edwards went down.
Yeah, and I think we'll see more of that from Iowa State. I'm really impressed with and sadly a good deal of my college football knowledge outside of the SEC just simply comes from the fact that I play the video game, and so you dive in with some of these different franchises or whatever, and you see like, oh, there's a good player. You know what I mean? Like, and when I started, you start looking at how they stack up, and then I'm a nerd, man. So like, I dive into, okay, well, why did EA give them this rating here? And it actually, I found some pretty impressive players. I know that the Baltimore picked up one of their linebackers from last year who was a real stud, and just like I said, I start with the video game just to learn names, and then after that, then it's everything's on the table, man. I'll just start diving in and looking for stuff. So very, very excited about that. So again, happy to have you here with us, Will McBroom from WVFS Tallahassee, man. Super excited to have you here. So before we really get into everything, the first thing we have to do, and it's the reason I call it the Fanatic Sports Podcast. Of course, fan is short for fanatic. Fanatic is a synonym of passionate or crazy. And so, but I'm here for that. I should admit and say that I'm a cheerleader for foolishness in general. But it's season 2, so we're no longer doing shenanigans. There may be some hijinks and horseplay, Will, but no more shenanigans. Okay, I can promise you that. But we love the passion. We love the crazies. If you're crazy about your team, we love that, man. We want to see more of it. And so we always start with the fandom story, man. Like, how did you get to, tell me your favorite team. Doesn't matter what sport, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, you pick. Your favorite sport and how you got involved or fell in love with that team. Give us one or two.
Well, I'll tell you, I grew up a Georgia Bulldogs fan. So yeah. So that came completely from my dad. He grew up in Tennessee and just decided, I don't want to be a Vols fan. And then he watched Herschel Walker run straight over Bill Bates and was like, I like this team. I think I can roll with that. So, he got when he was 6, watched a national title and then promptly went, another 40 years without seeing one before 2021. But yeah, he introduced me to Georgia. I remember watching that Boise State game where they wore those awful uniforms. We had like matching Matthew Stafford jerseys. So yeah, just my dad introduced me to college football overall. But yeah, that's where that fandom comes from. And then obviously Florida State now attending the school. You get both of those, which is a little awkward in that Orange Bowl game a couple of years ago. But and also watching both of them miss the playoff in the same day wasn't my favorite either. But and then actually of just kind of a recent thing, it's bandwagon-ish, but it wasn't on purpose. Became kind of a hockey fan. I'm a Florida Panthers fan.
Okay.
Because a lot of the media I listen to is, or at least I'm a big fan of the Dan Le Batard show.
Yeah, love Dan Le Batard.
Yeah, love it. Based out of Miami, so we didn't really have an NBA or an NHL team, so I was like, okay, Heat, Panthers, I'll roll with that. So that's just kind of how I've gotten those teams. And college football to an extent, there's only a certain level when you like cover so much of it that you can get to sometimes. Whereas like basketball, I feel like I can still, and hockey, same way, I can still be like, no, we're the best team, and just be irrational and say, if Panthers lose a game, say, no, that team's playing dirty. We're going to win. Doesn't even matter. And just be an irrational fan and just be annoying about it. And it's great.
Listen, I told you, man, I am a cheerleader for foolishness. And that's one of my favorite things is to get to be the annoying fan. So, like I said, I grew up in Arkansas, born and raised. And so on the college level, for me, it's woo pig or nothing. There's no other. I didn't know that those other 130 teams existed until college football came out, re-released last year. But before that, I mean, it's always been that way. But we don't have a pro team, essentially. Now, in Little Rock, where I grew up, which is Central Arkansas, there's, Jerry Jones is from North Little Rock, born and raised out that way. And so, and then he became a Hog, won a championship with the Hogs. And so a lot of people really are big time Dallas fans. Up in Northwest Arkansas, where I cut my teeth in kind of this business and many others. We're not too far from Kansas City. So there are, and then they recruit heavily out of Dallas as well, the university. And so a lot of people transplant to the university, move in and become, and so there's a ton of Dallas fans, a lot of Chiefs fans right now. And so you'll see a lot of fans there in football and basketball. It's like mainly a lot of Lakers fans, actually. That's the whatever team is on TV the most at the times where you get a lot there. But it's what's been interesting for me is why I bring it up. So moving here in 2020, I get to see my favorite teams, but I was sitting on the away side, and it kind of became more fun, just because your team scores a basket or a touchdown, and everybody else around you is going boo, and you go woo. It's I don't know. I was an offensive tackle, Will, so I didn't have I'm a big fella, so not a lot of people tend to mess with me, even though they don't like my team. But I mean, so I think I take advantage of that. And I just enjoy the foolishness of going against the rest of the league. But it's a lot of fun. Just, I mean, like I said, to be that annoying, overbearing, over the top homer fanatic, which is what we mean when we're doing this. So really a blast, man. I think I have a hockey team. I wanted to start fresh with Vegas, but by the time I kind of picked up where they were, it was like I was before I could realize like how much I actually enjoyed them. They were in the Stanley Cup Finals in like the inaugural season, which is just mind blowing. And I don't know if hockey does it the same way that basketball does, where you kind of pick like from the bottom of the bench on everybody's team in NBA. But I suppose that's not the same concept in the NHL, or is it just that much of a where a good coach can make any group of players better? Are you familiar with hockey in that way?
I really don't know what that process is either for them. I
Okay.
mean, it would be crazy to think that they could do that in the inaugural year and have to just take kind of the bottom players, but I can't confirm if that is it or not.
Okay. I'm not sure exactly what, but look, this sort of, it's not even a phenomenon anymore. I'm not sure how much you follow the W. The Golden State Valkyries did the exact same thing where, well, they're not in the finals per se, but they are contending and beating some really good WNBA teams. I know I follow the Aces. I'm an Aces fan, and looking at that team, looking at Golden State beat the two-time champion, team with, MVP front runner every year and Asia Wilson. And I mean, they won pretty big. It wasn't like it was like a last second, heave from half court. They were up by, I think they won by 5 or 10 points or something like that. And actually the Aces have struggled against Golden State in their matchups. Like, we're talking about a brand new team. And I do know in the WNBA, it is the same thing where they I know they had an early pick, but they also had, they had a lot of, they were, like I said, kind of picking from the bottom of the bench, like the bottom 8. I think there's 12 or 15 girls you pick from like the bottom 8, something like that. So, but to see them contend in this league and not look like they're not losing every game by 30 and 1-13 or whatever, they are actually, being competitive, and it's good to see, but also it's kind of a shock. Like, I don't know if you're old enough to remember, like when the T-Wolves came to the NBA, the Heat, Charlotte, those sorts of teams coming to the NBA where they, but if you studied it at all, you know those teams had years of just struggling. And I mean, even now, I know the Heat have kind of picked it up, but and that was, of course, nearly 40 years ago. Timberwolves as well, but the Toronto just got to a point where they became competitive maybe a decade ago. So, and they've been in the league maybe 25, 30 years or something. So, it usually is a long process. So it's been interesting to see with Vegas and with, again, with Golden State, the women's team being competitive early on in their tenure in their respective leagues.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, same thing in college football. Whenever, Big 12 brings in UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, BYU, and you just kind of know first year, you're like, hey, it's probably going to be pretty rough. Like, maybe you pick up a conference game.
Sure.
And I mean, there are exceptions. Like, especially when the Big East was kind of still around and feeding teams to the ACC. Like, some of those teams, Louisville, West Virginia, the Big 12, those teams were able to kind of hit the ground running. But even then, you're not going to really be able to enter on that same playing field. I wonder if I've loosely followed WNBA, but I wonder, does it have to do possibly with the few amount of teams and just the amount of straight up first round don't even end up making the team, and you have a lot more talent to pick from possibly?
I thought about that from the Valkyrie standpoint as well, just because, like I said, same concept where they are, there's only, I think Golden State's the 13th team. They'll add, I think, 2 more teams in the next, or 2 to 4 more teams in the next 2 years. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We're talking about, Minnesota let one of their first round picks walk recently. But it's not the same where, you got 30 teams in the first round, you only got 13. So it's not, and you would think that, you would be able to maintain that first round pick. You're right. But, and so that might have to do it, but I still think it feels like a phenomenon for both Vegas and then Seattle's hockey team also was competitive. Now, Seattle didn't make the I don't believe they made the Stanley Cup final. No, they didn't make the finals, but they went deep into the playoffs. For Vegas to almost win it, if I'm not mistaken, maybe they did win it.
Yeah, they did. They
did win it. Yeah. Like, and that's just, that is just an amazing thought pattern to me. It's very, very cool to see. And so, I say all that to say that, man, I didn't want to feel like a bandwagon. Kind of like you're saying, like, you don't want to feel like a bandwagon and jumping on when they're winning. But I think that's the way that works in fandom, is that before you know it, you have, you don't like losers. I mean, most of us don't. Most of us don't. However, I will say this: when it became real, so I'm a Steelers fan in the pros, and it didn't become real to me. So I kind of jumped on the Steelers bandwagon because I like being right more than I like being happy. There was so I'm having this argument with one of my best friends and my brother when Roethlisberger was drafted, and so they're talking about Eli or Phillip Rivers, and I said, man, have y'all seen this Roethlisberger guy? I happen to I work in hotels. I happened to catch some matching and was highly impressed by what he's doing. And then the team he was going to was at that time, if you remember, was really, really a solid team that had just had a down year and needed some quarterback play. And that's what they got. And it was really, really cool to be right the next year and to be right again the year after that. And then 2010 we got a matchup of really historic proportions with the Packers and the Steelers, two historic franchises. And so, man, I'm going to get my chicken wings, my favorite wings. I got my favorite pizza. I'm even going to get my favorite beer. And I get back about halfway through thinking I'm about to celebrate a third time of being I told you so. And we lost that game. And that's when it kind of stunk. When it kind of hit me like, wait, am I a Steelers fan? Like, because this sucked. We lost it, thanks to Rashard Mendenhall. Whatever. I won't get into it.
Well, it's one of those hate losing more than loves winning type of things that you kind of find out. Yeah.
that's the beauty of fandom, and that's why I say, man, that's why I like to start with that, man. The way that you become a fan, the way that those losses, especially as a Razorback fan, I can tell you with great certainty. We've had some really, really good years. We don't even talk about the 42 national championships that we won in between basketball and track and a couple other sports, man. But when I'm having a bad day, I just like to make it worse by going and watching all the bad things that have happened, the misfortune of the Razorbacks, and sometimes if it's really, really bad. I don't know if you follow college baseball. I imagine so, since Florida State's got a pretty good team. I sometimes will not. I won't go visit the 2018 game. That's just I don't even want to think about that. But in 2019, which no, James, I think had already been gone at that point. But in 2019, we faced Florida State in Omaha, and we're just hitting. I don't know if Florida State skipper had put a shift on or what, but we are hitting straight atom balls. Hard, well hit atom balls straight to I can't think of how many times we hit lineouts to left and right field, how many times we hit lineouts to second and short. It was that might have hurt, honestly, almost as bad as the drop ball in 18, which would have been a championship win for us. So, but those are the moments that keep me up at night, honestly.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. For me, first of all, that Tennessee baseball game that Florida State had a couple of years ago, he went around. That should have won that one.
Yeah.
But for me also, there's the Georgia, just that run of years that Georgia lost to Alabama every single time, just heartbreaking. I remember, usually your friends like kind of enjoy your misery as a fan. After that national title game, they were just like, "Hey, you doing okay, man?" It's like, yeah, the time.
Let's just move on, okay? Let's all breathe some air or something. Let's all breathe some air. I've got a glass of bleach if anybody else wants to share with me. Man, and it's funny that you're a Georgia fan. So shout out to the ladies at Sports Uncorked, man. I had them on last week, almost 7 days ago, and they met at Bama. I want to say Riss actually went to Georgia before coming to Alabama. And so actually, that's right. So Marissa went to Georgia and Rachel went to Auburn initially out of high school, both of them. And then they both ended up at Alabama. So imagine that, right. And they are obviously, as you would imagine, gun-ho. Now, to be fair, they went to Alabama when Mike Shula was there. So we're talking tough times.
Not bandwagon for sure.
Yeah, nope, not at all. They deserve each and every one of them rings they've endured, because if you were Mike Shula, you were there during Mike Shula's years, You deserve it all. I'll admit that. But it's funny to see that, and they actually have a different idea of that game, different opinion of that game than you might have.
Yeah, I think so.
That probably shocks you, doesn't it? So, well, man, look. So speaking of Bama, it's a great way to kind of segue into college football, and I don't want to talk very long about it because look, man, you got a lot of really interesting things that you've done. For those who maybe just joined us, Will McBroom here from WVFS, man. Very, very, very cool to have you on. And so you talk Florida State sports, especially on Tomahawk Talk, all the time. And so let's dive in a little bit, man. Week 1 out of the gate. We're look, you know, I like this. I like that a lot of teams are taking on challenges early in the season. We can dive back a little bit because I want to torture all my friends in the men's ministry that are LSU fans. But look, y'all started the last couple seasons off pretty well prior to, I guess it was not last season, but year before last, the 2 seasons, beating LSU in week 1 to start, which I'm very thankful for. Thank you. I don't know if you can pass that along to whoever you need to. But thank you for doing that. It just starting them off on the wrong foot. Yeah, hopefully they can do it again. I'm very fine with the idea of Alabama losing early. Shout out to Riss and Rach, but listen, I'll take an L from. I'm not one of those guys. I don't know if you've met a lot of those SEC fans that are like, "Oh, long as the SEC went." No, it's Arkansas versus everybody. No, I want everybody else's team to suffer, all of them.
Except Vanderbilt. I'm cool with Vanderbilt being okay. They deserve it a little bit.
Listen, they've had a run that's been, this is good. And listen, them beating Alabama again, outstanding. Love it. It's great. And only because I'm an agent of chaos at the end of this thing, Will. And a cheerleader for foolishness, and I love to watch just I love the chaos of the NIL. I love the chaos of the transfer portal. As a former college athlete, man, I can't tell you because I don't know if the statute of limitation is up on some of the things that I've witnessed that other players had to do, that were playing college football on my team and on our rival teams, what they had to do to survive. And just to, I was blessed to have family that was able to chip in and, make sure I had enough money for a Domino's pizza and maybe, go to a party or take my girlfriend out or something. But I mean, like that was it. I was fortunate, right? So from that standpoint, the NIL stuff, the transfer portal, the chance to get to move around and set yourself up for success in whatever way that would be, I'm all for it. I'm fine with it. It's bit us in the butt a time or two, but still, I even after all of that, I will still happily take some of the chaos that comes with it just to see these players get the opportunity to be where they want to be. I'm very fine with it. But kind of honing it back in, man, this Alabama game. So first of all, tell me a little bit about what you've seen up close with Thomas Castellano, if I'm saying that right. The kid that the transfer from, speaking of the portal, the transfer from Boston College.
Yeah, in terms of practices, pretty much nothing because they have locked everything down. There was one open practice during the spring. And there's been one, I believe, during fall. Like they want to keep everything down because last year, all that you heard coming out was all of the NFL potential around, especially on the defense side, like and the receivers, but just all these athletes. These are great athletes here. Like this is one of the most athletic teams, like athletically better than 2023, and that's all you kept hearing. And I think that in a way went to some of those players' heads, and it also contributed to just the idea that Florida State was going to be a lot better, obviously, than they ended up being. But this year, Norvell's just taking an exact opposite approach. And there's also some other sides to it where, on one hand, you have so many new players. You got the Malzahn offense and the Tony White defense coming in. You want to be able to catch teams off guard a little bit, especially Alabama opening week. And then also, that many new players, you're not going to look great at the start, especially with those practices. It's hard to get, especially, 4 new offensive linemen, and the only returning starter got hurt week 3 last year. So it's not going to mesh right away. You hope that by the time you get to the season, it has. That's one of the big question marks is, hey, these are all individually talented guys. Can they work together? Because that's easier said than done. But in terms of Castellanos, I think that some of the comments this offseason have kind of rub people the wrong way, definitely in terms of, the saying they're going to beat Alabama and the whole, like, I've already dominated the ACC thing. It's like, well, not really. Y'all weren't that good, and the back and forth also with Bill O'Brien that Castellanos did say recently, like, hey, I wish I hadn't left Boston College at midseason. I wish I had, stayed with the team and finished out the year before leaving. It's a much worse look for Bill O'Brien that he's just trying to take out like a 21-year-old former player for his team. It's really, but I mean, everybody knows that about Bill O'Brien. He's not exactly the known as the nicest guy that everybody gets along with. So, but I think obviously having worked with Malzahn previously is a leg up for him. We've seen what Malzahn does with these sorts of quarterbacks who are mobile. Nick Marshall in the past, he's had a lot of success with those guys. So from that perspective, I think you are upgrading from DJU, who had zero mobility, ability to move in the pocket.
Statue.
It was brutal. So now at least you've got somebody who is creative in good and bad ways. All right, you're going to see some crazy touchdowns, and you're going to see some interceptions that you're like, what were you seeing there? So it's still a lot of question marks, and then it also leads the receiving core. Deuce Robinson's coming in from USC. He's going to be great. We've heard a ton of great stuff about him. Squirrel White, a little bit banged up, so he hasn't practiced as much recently, but I think he is a guy who they're going to use a little bit more efficiently than he was used at Tennessee. And then that wide receiver 3 spot, I'll tell you to watch out for Javen Boggs because he's coming in, true freshman, 4-star recruit, nothing but rave reviews. This guy might be a day 1 starter, it sounds like. So he's definitely one to watch because if you can get 3 really good receivers there for Castellanos off the bat, then you're starting out ahead, especially with the running back room where it is too.
Yeah. And one of the things, so Malzahn I've seen up close and personal, of course, being living in Northwest Arkansas for all that time, man. This guy, one of the beautiful things about him is that, he knows what to do with a runner, whether it be your running back or your quarterback. He knows what to do with a runner, and he's efficient in the way that he handles quarterbacks, and he makes it. The offense is going to look good, and if that's what you're getting, especially when you add a guy, you add him to the brain, the mind of Mike Norvell, also a very capable and outstanding offensive mind as well. So very excited to see that. And bringing up Castellanos, and the reason why I wanted to ask about him a little bit is because in our league, in the SEC, we're seeing some dynamite playmakers around the league, from Marcel Reed to Lenora Sellers to what we expect to see from a Jackson Arnold, Pavia. There's probably 10 or 12, probably 8 to 10 like top notch, top 3 round quarterbacks that are gonna in the SEC. But outside of the SEC, there's some big time playmakers, man, that I think can be good. I feel like Castellanos might be right at the top of that. We talked about Rocco Beck in Iowa State a bit ago, but I think the Castellanos could be right in that same boat with his ability to run. I don't know what his pro career is going to look like because he's quite undersized, but in this offense with Malzahn and with what he's able to do, and I think them big time Florida State Lights and the ACC are going to really make him the star that we feel like we saw. I think it was when Boston College beat Florida State that kind of put him on the map. So the poetic irony that he's now joining in Florida State is pretty exciting. Talk a little bit about the ACC. There's some playmakers at the helm out there as well. I think the first one that comes to mind is Eli Hosing up in Pitt, and what I feel like he, in his second year in that offense, what I think he's going to be able to do. Carson Beck, someone you probably seen up and close as a Bulldog fan, moving over to Miami to kind of cover the and he'll be right in that same fold after Cam Ward leaving. There's a good list of other really great playmakers as well. Talk a little bit about what you plan to see in the ACC as well.
Yeah, I mean, number one, obviously, Cade Klubnik, Clemson. They're just kind of another level. Their receiving core.
Gosh, how did I forget him? Yeah.
Yeah, their receiving core is insane, and they had struggled with that for quite a while. I mean, you've got like Troy Stellato, Adam Randall with some of your top receivers for a few years. They're like, it's not a good setup. You get Wesco, TJ Moore in there, Antonio Williams back for what feels like about his 8th year of college. They've got a really good setup there. The run game's a bit of a question, but yeah, I mean, other quarterbacks around the league, Miller Moss coming in at Louisville, I'm really excited to see what Jeff Brom can do with him. Yeah. I think some of the issues at USC were kind of unfairly blamed on Moss. He had some turnover problems, but I thought he played pretty well overall. I think that whole team just had some troubles, and Lincoln Riley will just do what Lincoln Riley does. But also, I mean, North Carolina, big questions there. Gio Lopez, how does he end up faring after, entering now into that Belichick system there? Kyron Drones, Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Little bit of a down year compared to what people thought he was going to do last year. But, I mean, he can bounce back. I don't love the hire of Philip Montgomery there, but it at least as OC, but it at least puts a floor on how bad you can be too. Kind of. It is. It's one of those high floor, low ceiling sort of things when you hire Philip Montgomery to a school. But and even in a school like Virginia, which on early returns I criticize Tony Elliott, head coach of Virginia, at least once a week. But brought in Chandler Morris, who is a really, really talented guy who's also been around forever. So yeah, just around like you said, Carson Beck. He's Cavender free now as well, so he's locked in here this season. I think the ACC is a competitive league. I didn't even mention Haynes King either.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's incredible. He's a playmaker. He's a playmaker, man. Again, another one of those guys, and I think we'll see this, out of a few different guys now. The way that college football is trending with, obviously, it seems like everybody now. They're gone are the days of the pocket passer, the Peyton Manning, Tom Brady guys that are gonna beat you with their mind, with their eyes, and their athleticism in the pocket. It seems like everybody's got to be able to run. And I interestingly enough, thinking about that being down here in Baton Rouge, quarterback play is so important, and it starts early. If you followed any little league football, even now, the fastest kid is no longer your running back; he's now your quarterback. And I believe we're seeing that kind of trend go up the level. And so it's interesting to see that. But everyone can move, everyone can run, everyone's a willing runner these days. And so when you see a lot of playmakers, I think of guys who Cam Newton was another one, a guy that Malzahn who made him, his offense was perfectly geared for Cam Newton, who was a playmaker in his own right. But then also, that ability to use the running aspect, the 11th man, on offense to really put defenses in a conundrum. And so, you think about a guy like Haynes King, who's, again, may not necessarily throw the prettiest ball always, not always the most accurate, but he's just going to make a play. And those guys with that kind of swagger. And I'll tell you, as a left tackle, for someone like me, I've never been fond of the runner. But when you get that kind of swagger, that kind of confidence in what it instills, not only in the other 10 guys on your offense, but what it does for the other side of the ball, to know as a defensive tackle, I play defense in minor league football, to know that, our offense is going to, they're going to go score if we get the ball back. And it really gives you that momentum of, and confidence. So let's go get it. Let's go give it back to them. And we don't even worry about scoring. Let's just get them the ball. And we know that's going to, that sort of swagger is hard to top. It means a lot. Pavia in Vanderbilt's a guy that makes me think of that. He is very confident. He believes in himself way more than everybody else does. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but it worked out real well last year.
He said whatever about, hey, we want to win a title at Vanderbilt. I think he fully believes they can. He's wrong, but I think he fully believes it. And that's what you want from your guy. And just undersized guy coming in from New Mexico State who just clearly has been doubted by everybody. So you just build that up, I think. And especially once you earn it, that's definitely what you want. I mean, you beat Alabama at Vanderbilt, you can say whatever you want at that point. But yeah, no, that's the type of player you want. I mean, you talk about even NFL wise, it's developing that way more so as well because, guys like even Mahomes, who's not a runner, but moves in the pocket like crazy, gets outside of the pocket and can get yards when he needs to also. Right. And then you go Lamar Jackson. What a weapon. You're basically getting a top 5 running back and a top 5 quarterback in the same player at that point. It's amazing. Like, so it's definitely how the game's going.
As Mike Tomlin refers to a Mr. Jackson, and rightfully so, man. What he did to us in the playoff was gut wrenching, because I mean, like, when the best option is to just let your linebackers go one-on-one with Derrick Henry, like, that's your best option, right? Like, that's a terrible day. That's a terrible day. Who wants that? Who signed up for that? So just amazing to see the playmaking, man. And I love that. I almost forgot about Miller Moss. I was excited to see that. I think this is going to be I think we're going to see a really motivated, obviously, Miller Moss, but also a much more comfortable Miller Moss. I believe in USC that they were just kind of waiting on the freshman guy. Well, he's not a freshman anymore, but he ended up taking over for Miller at USC. It just seemed like they were just waiting. They were biding time. It looked like Miller was just only planning to be the bridge to Mayava, and so it's hard to feel confident and want to play with somebody like that looming over your shoulders. I know the right thing to say, the coach's words to say, are that you believe in it and all that. Man, the reality of it is when a shadow like that is over your shoulder, who can play well? A, B, you're being scrutinized, and I want to say that Miller Moss called it tomato instead of tomato, and the entire USC fan base was ready to see him go. It's literally like that. So I think in Louisville they're going to be happy to have him, and I just some of the stuff I saw once he had committed to Louisville was much more excitement. He seemed a lot more calm in his in some of the press I've seen him do. I think it's going to be exciting to see some players like that kind of get that ability to shine. And again, I call it chaos and foolishness, but in all reality, the transfer portal was much needed for guys to get the opportunity. If your opportunity isn't what they said it would be, the things that say. I went on a recruiting visit with my cousins to the U of A in June, so a couple months ago, and of course, they were there and they were super nice. They were nice to my grandma. They were nice to my aunt. They said they were nice to me. And they said all sorts of great things, and because they want my cousins badly. Believe it or not, I'm 6'5". I'm nearly 400 pounds. Will, I'm tiny. Both my cousins pat me on my head. You understand? The big brother is 6'9", 220, and baby brother, the small one of the bunch, is 6'7", 305. So, yeah. Paw was the shortest of 3 boys at 6'4". Okay, so we're a giant family, and so but naturally they were all very, very happy to have both Jordan and Jalen visiting, and so they say all that stuff, and while they're stuffing you full of food and partying it up all weekend, but then once you sign with the team and you put on that jersey, we see a whole different side. I witnessed that in my own recruiting, and so for me, I think it's great if things aren't the way they said they were going to be, or you feel like you're not going to be successful in that situation. Sure, go ahead and get out, find your way until what works best for you, and vice versa. If you think that things are going to be better than they're not, fine. Leave and go learn a valuable lesson that, hey, maybe that coach wasn't wrong. Maybe I need to get up and work hard. So I love the portal. I love NIL. I love all that it's doing for us.
I think it's great. I mean, my coaches have been able to do it forever. Why can Brian Kelly just completely leave Notre Dame, leave all his players to go to LSU, but the players aren't supposed to be allowed to do that? And I understand the aspect of like TJ Finley has been at like 6 schools in 5. That's a bit much. You're not ever going to be able to settle into any sort of system. You're not really at that point. You are just kind of fleeing adversity. But no, the amount of guys who, sometimes you do just need a change of scenery. And I mean, on Miller Moss, come on, you're going to Jeff Brom, one of the 2 people alongside Drew Brees to ever make Purdue good, instead of Lincoln Riley, which Lincoln Riley wakes up every morning, looks in the mirror, and is like, how do I do the least amount of work that I possibly can today? Like, how do I make today as easy as it can possibly be for me? And then let me plan out which media members I'm going to yell at too, because I'm just so mad about everything. So yeah, there's just situations where definitely, you stay a year, stay two, whatever. I mean, and teams adapt to that. I know that, you're not going to have an Alabama type team anymore because you just can't build depth like that. And that's good. That brings more parity. Yeah. And you have more guys who you could sit for 3 years and then you get that finally that year to start. And then hopefully you make your, NFL play, or you go somewhere else and you're able to play right away. It's not for everybody, but I think it's a very good thing.
So one of the things that I spoke with a Cincinnati Bengals scout. This may have been 3-4 years ago now, just kind of talking about it. And actually the conversation led from I played with minor league sports. That's kind of how this whole thing started with sports journalism. Was I played minor league sports as adult amateurs, a bunch of guys over 18 who weren't ready to let go of football after their high school or college football careers came to an end. And so I wanted to ask just to get an idea. Hey, what's it like, man? What's the chances of a guy? I don't know if you've ever heard the name Delvin Breaux. He was a cornerback for the New Orleans Saints a few years back, but he played minor league football in the league that I played in the year before I started. And so he did not look like he was meant to be playing out there with us yahoos who just didn't want to let go. He had a real career. Obviously, he got picked up by the Saints and made something of it for 3-4 years, and not just a cup of coffee. He hung around for a while. And so it was really cool. But I asked him, what's that like? How does that work? And first thing that scout told me was, hey, man, look, we don't just come to your college to see, the Carson Becks, in Miami. We're coming to see everybody. We're going to watch how everybody works around Carson and, pick up names like that, man. So by the time that you get out of the pro or out of college, we've seen so much of you that it's rare to find something new, And again, I think the portal's helping that. You think about a Cam Ward. Cam Ward was not on anybody's bingo board as the number one pick last year. I distinctly remember going into the draft at the release of NCAA football last year, so July of last year, arguing with many people on Instagram about who, they were complaining about Shedeur being the best quarterback or the highest rated quarterback. And they talked about Carson Beck. They talked about Quinn Ewers. They talked about a lot of names. But those two were at the top of the list. Nobody, and I mean nobody, mentioned the Cam Ward. And we just we didn't know that this type of, play was going to come out of Miami. And so it's just very, very cool to see that growth, and all that comes from his ability to transfer and get into a system and that a school that had eyes on it in a rich history, in a conference that's able to expose and show in a positive way good players, but and also being in a system where again like I talked about with Miller Moss, wanted to see that, because he had a great run out in Washington State and he played really well there during his time, but it's just not the same. A lot of people asleep when Washington State's winning and or losing ball games. Miami's got a rich history, a lot of eyes, big conference. It's really cool to get that opportunity. So again, love what the portal does for a lot of players and that opportunity that they get there.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, and even before Washington State being an incarnate word, like you're going to play quarterback in incarnate word, and you get the opportunity to catch the eye of somebody at Wazoo who's like, hey, I think this guy could probably fit our system. And then, I mean, I understand that you want these teams to be able to have continuity, but let's be honest, Washington State and Miami are barely playing the same sport. Like it's not really the same level. And I mean, you see the same thing. Like Khalil Mack spent 4 years at Buffalo. That's not going to happen anymore.
No.
Khalil Mack, that type of player is not going to spend 4 years at Buffalo, because you can move up. You have no idea if you're going to have that sort of long-term career in the NFL, no matter how good you are. Even if you were going to be good at that level, you could have an injury. And I think about Georgia-wise, like David Pollock, back injury in this career. Wasn't a bad player. That's not why. Something like that can happen. Go get the money. I mean, Cam Ward, obviously, it's still a small minority of players who are able to get the sort of money that he got there. But yeah, make that move from Washington State to Miami for, $10 million or whatever you're able to do. Like crazy. Like you're set for a good amount of time, and you have some security behind that, potential pro career, even as you go number one overall. So I think it's a great thing.
When you think of Khalil Mack, it makes me think about somebody close to home for you, and Jared Verse, who, if I'm not mistaken, he came from I want to say it was a small school. Gosh, I can't remember.
Albany.
Albany. Okay.
He was a Great Dane. Yep.
From Albany and he was there 1 year, right? 1 year with Florida State, and what may have been one of the. I watched the ACC championship from a couple years ago on the ACC network the other night while I was working at a bar, slowly working at a bar. And man, that defense might have been one of the best defenses. From Fisk to Verse to just that team was just unreal. I said it a couple years ago that I thought that don't tell your fans not to stab me, but I thought that Florida State should have been left out of the playoff because with the injury to their quarterback, I thought that they wouldn't have a chance to compete. But going back and watching that again, man, that defense was so unreal. So I'm sitting here watching the ball game. This is Louisville versus Florida State. And I forgot the kind of the minutia. I know who won, right? I know the ending result, but I forgot how we got to that point. So we see a turnover or like a muck punt or block punt or something down that results in Louisville having in the red zone. And there's pressure on the edge. There's pressure up the middle from Fisk, and the linebacker gets just a gimme in the end zone as he bracketing the inside receiver. Dude, I'm talking about that Florida State defense was unreal, and I still will stand by the idea that I wouldn't have wanted to see them because I want to say this playoff was maybe 4 teams, not 8.
Yeah.
Or 4 teams, not 12.
Washington, Texas, Alabama, Michigan.
Okay, so yeah, I'll stand by that. I didn't want to see that Florida State team in the playoff, but I almost kind of wanted to just to see how good that defense would stack up against those 4 teams. I feel like they might would have got a Washington just off of how good their defense was. Because the offense of Louisville, their quarterback, I forgot his name, but he was
Jack Plummer.
Yes, yeah. Plummer. So Plummer had he'd started probably 30 games or something. I mean, we're talking about a very experienced guy, and he could do nothing. I mean, that offense just did not move. And meanwhile, God bless. I don't know where he's at now, but I hope he's doing well. The quarterback who filled in the conference championship and for Florida State, he made it look really, really hard. Really, really hard.
He's still here. He's looking at QB3 this coming year, it looks like. So
I'm impressed that he's made it that far. I will admit, because he made playing quarterback look really. He made it look like I was playing quarterback out there. And I'll tell you, I probably throw better with my left hand than my right, and I'm right-handed. It's me and Tebow. We were both really, really bad. But he made it look really, really tough to play.
Oh yeah.
They
started running so many plays just out of the Wildcat for Toe Field because they couldn't throw the ball.
Again, talk about it. That was impressive. So look, man, I wanted before we cut out, man, I want to take some time and kind of talk a little bit about first of all, here with Will McBroom from WVFS Tallahassee, and also from Early Returns Podcast and Tomahawk Talk Pod. First and before I do anything else, I meant to ask you this to start. Has anyone ever called you Will McBroom?
Have not heard that one. No, actually.
Well, hold on just a second. We need to change that on your name now. You are now Will McBroom. Congratulations.
Awesome. Let's go.
But no, man, want to talk a little bit about you and some of the things you're doing, man. You got a lot of really great things going on, man. And again, I've said it a bunch. I'll say it again before we finish, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a blast to just chat with you for a bit. But tell us a little bit about the things you're doing. I know we talked earlier about you assuming the role of sports director. Kind of talk a little bit about your history and your career and where you've gone and some of the things you're looking forward to in the future.
Yeah, so I joined, I'm going into my senior year at Florida State right now. I joined the radio station sophomore year. just kind of stumbled upon it. I was like, okay, this sounds cool. Like I'll go to a meet. Or what actually happened is I was like, I called my mom. I was just mentioning it in passing. I was like, yeah, I think I'll probably, go to this meeting. She was like, no, you'll go to that meeting later. I was like, okay, I'm that then you have to. So I showed up and they were talking about like who was covering the football game that day. And I was like, you mean like we can just like go to the press box and we can just go watch games up there? Okay, I'm in. That sounds cool. I was on the show probably like 3 weeks after I first got there. Was my debut as a panelist on the show. William Haynes was the former host, and then co-host Jackson Bakich, who followed him up. Both gave me the opportunity to be on there, and it was interesting too watching kind of how that develops, because the first question that you get asked always is like, how are you doing? And that's the hardest question you'll get asked, like, because it's the first one you'll ever answer live on air, and you're like, good. Like so you have to like the first like 15 minutes is just me prepping for that question. I'm like, okay, I gotta have somewhere to go here, and you go from that to like, the next time you're on, you're like, okay, now you feel a little bit more comfortable, and you just kind of ease into it. And like I said, that's where I met my co-host David Jarrett, one of my good friends, who on early returns, and we covered the Florida State Duke game. That was the first game I had covered there. Which was our homecoming game when Duke was a top 25 team too. Yeah. And then the Miami game a few weeks later, we're down on the field for the end of that game. Crazy. And it's just from there, I joined leadership. I was serving as the chief reporter as well as the host of the show, handling the website, stuff like that for the last couple of years. And then our director, Amanda Golson, graduated this past year. So summer has been my first time serving officially as director, but a lot of good stuff still doing the show. Once we get excited for tomorrow when everybody's back, we have our some of our panelists who've been gone for the summer coming back on, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But just trying to get more content out. Like I said, post-game reaction shows, at least for football. Hopefully, baseball, softball season, we can do some stuff with that as well. But it's awesome. It's my favorite thing, and I love getting people on air to talk about whatever they love to talk about. Like we've got some people who are softball fanatics, or some people who love UFC. Like that's kind of been my thing, is I want as many people on air on the show as we can get. And if you don't want to talk about, like, maybe you love basketball and you don't know anything about baseball, okay, come on, talk basketball. You don't have to talk baseball, or vice versa. Like that's how I like it, is I want you to talk about what you want to talk about. And that's just one of the greatest opportunities, is like getting people on air and kind of seeing them develop that comfort with it and get better and better every time.
Yeah, that's very, very awesome, man. And I'll tell you, so fun fact about me, just like you, man, I listened to sports talk my entire life, most of my childhood. Just love sports as a whole. My family was into sports, and so lots of generations of sports for us. So I've always been in love with sports. So the idea of talking it is very, very common for me. I applied also. I wanted to be a writer for the news paper at the University of Arkansas, and I was denied. I don't know. I guess they only had like 1 or 2 spots, and I wasn't like a journalism major or anything. I just was like, man, look, I want to write. And they told me no. I was heartbroken by this. And so I hope that as a sports director, you have a much more visionary eye for talented people. But sports kind of brought me back to the sports talk arena, and so it's been such a blast over the years of sports broadcasting to get to meet really awesome young people just like yourself that are working in this field. And what's been really cool is the opportunity to provide these moments for people. Thanks to the joy of technology and affordable technology, I guess we've all turned into journalists, if you will, of sorts. But it's such a really cool thing. And so the last year with this podcast, I have had the chance to connect with people and kind of build a network all over. Like I said, I want to be regional, and so working from Florida to Texas is my goal. And so definitely a blast to get to do this with you, man. So talk to me a little bit about early returns. Talk to me a little bit more about, well, I guess we can lead with the Tomahawk Talk and what you do with that podcast.
Yeah, so Tomahawk Talk once a week, Mondays, 89.7 in Tallahassee. we are getting obviously back into college football season, so it is pretty much it's all football nonstop. Obviously, we'll have we do part of the show. Usually, it was originally called Seminole segment because originally our former director Jack Oliaro would do a rundown of like other Seminole sports that maybe weren't getting as much coverage, whether it's golf, soccer, volleyball, something like that. So we'll continue that, whether it's with that or just we have somebody on the show like, hey, who wants to talk about, like I said, like the UFC card this week or something like that. But main show, we try and lead with Florida State football. Last year that got kind of difficult, but usually there's plenty to talk about. You're not just like, yeah, no, receivers are still bad. That's pretty much what last year devolved into. But and then general college football, NFL, and it's awesome because like I get to put the pre-show doc together. Obviously, and for me, like with college football, you can just ask me a game, and I've just got it. Like we always just run out of time. We can never get to everything because there's just so much that I could just talk about football forever. So that's what we're doing right now. Also, baseball coverage. We've done more MLB coverage recently. FSU will play a fall ball game in Pensacola, my hometown, so I'll be there. Also, that's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, and then on the early return side, we've started recently an interview series with various sports editors or sports journalists from other colleges around the country. I just published over the last week, I talked to Jackson Posey, the sports editor of the Daily Lariat at Baylor, and Michael Stamps, who works for the Missouri Sports Illustrated page down there and is attending Mizzou for journalism school. So it's awesome because you do meet people, I mean, who you develop a relationship with from there. Runjan Jindal, sports editor of the Chronicle at Duke. Like I've talked to a lot of people like that. So that's been something that I've really enjoyed doing recently. And then my co-host David and I still are recording every weekend a full recap episode, and then midweeks we'll either hop on or I'll get our other friend Thomas Whitteman is becoming more involved with it as well. So for some midweek episodes, it's just a lot of fun, man. I love doing it.
It really is. Dude, this content creation thing is a job for sure, but it's a blast, man. I'm an old head dude, man, but like I really enjoy it. Like working with a lot of the young folks like you that help me that help me stay young and relevant. But also, I met last night. I had a pod with it's called Vets Plus Sports. They're a bunch of old head veteran guys that have been in the military, that love talk sports, and maybe not necessarily as professional, but just a blast to get to have this opportunity to do this on air. And people check us out. Some people, few people, but it's really, really cool to get to see all this, man. So definitely appreciate that. I did want to pitch one name to you. His name's Gabe Soda, and he is. I think he's still in college, but he's. I'll shoot you his stuff on his Instagram. He runs the Play BK at the Play BK. I think he would be really great for your interview series as well. So shout out to Gabe. He's up in New York. He's a traditional New Yorker, man, and I love that dude, man. He's great. My co-host is also from New York, and so that's where we kind of made that run. But man, it's really great to get the opportunity to talk this worldwide with lots of different awesome, because sports is such a worldwide phenomenon and what it does for us in creating community. So man, thank you again for your time, Will. Literally, it's been a real pleasure, man. And listen, we'll do it again. I won't bother you during the season if you don't want, because I know you got a lot of work to do. But
feel free. I will come on whenever you want me to.
Let me ask you one last thing, and then we'll wrap this. But because I did attend. I enrolled in colleges at the University of Arkansas. Our classes. I didn't go to very many of them, which may have been part of the reason why the newspaper didn't want me to come. But that's not important. My mom's not watching. Nobody needs to know. So, but man, going to a school like Florida State, which I had a bunch of friends. I got some folks that are watching now. They're from Arkansas, but you pick your teams, and when Arkansas stinks as much as it has in so many recent years, you start to have your secondary team. And so a lot of people, Florida State is that secondary team. So I know I got a few people watching that are going to see this, but talk a little bit about being at such a legendary school. All those years, they've won a good deal of national championships, and that for a long time, for maybe the better part of 50 years, they've been one of the better, organizations for the program for football. in particular, and talk a little bit about what it's like, and especially with you've got insider knowledge in there. Talk a little bit about attending that school, what it's like when things are good. I know last year wasn't, but in the previous years, what it's meant to be on in a school with such great such high marks in the football world.
It's incredible. I mean, the tradition there, you can tell, you can feel it. Like we talked about the game day atmosphere earlier, but I mean, people love it. People care a lot. And you talked about the fan, the kind of the line between, passionate and crazy. FSU fans tend to go a little bit more towards the crazy, and that's the beautiful thing of it. And you see it, it can definitely be a little bit weaponized when,
Sure.
they get kicked out of the playoff, and then, Kirk Herbstreit's public enemy number one forever. But it's the, like I said, it's the blurring of the lines there where it's positive, even though, it can be a little bit crazed at times. But no, I mean, the tradition is unbelievable. And I was grateful for the fact that, when I first came here, it was 2022. I remember sitting with my friend who was going with me as well and like trying to predict the football season. And it was like, man, because this is entering 2022 that I got here. So he was like, man, we're not winning anything with Jordan Travis at quarterback. Like, we're probably going to not make a bowl game. Oh, wow. That was the worst take that anyone has ever had in the end, because immediately getting here 2022, like you said, we opened with the win over LSU in New Orleans there. And just from there was like a 3-week stretch in the season where we lost 3 games. Other than that, 10-3 year. Going to the next year, undefeated regular season, being able to attend those games, cover those games, talk to the players, talk to the coaches. I mean, I will tell you, going to press conferences over the last 2 years, once you see Mike Norvell walk in, because he's so enthusiastic after a win, there's like these walks in, goes, hey, everybody, like he's so hyped up. And then going last year was just sad, where he just comes in. It's just like, all right, any questions? Like it's that's just how much it matters to everybody, coaches, fans, everything. And I mean, you see, even the behavior in Florida State wanting to leave the ACC and kind of having a lot of bravado with maybe not the ability to back it up there, maybe not perfect timing to do that, but it's because they care. It's because they want to be great. And I'd rather want to be great and maybe come off that way than, be a school. I won't name any names of rival schools. I'll be nice here, but who might be a little bit less interested in stuff like that, or other ones who, maybe the stadium atmosphere isn't great because it's 45 minutes away from campus, but not naming any names here.
Yeah. No names, no fingers pointed or nothing.
Nope.
No, man, you're absolutely right. And so one of the interesting things, and that's why I put as my tagline that the best team in Florida is Florida State. Honestly, I love what the tradition of the U and what they've done, but something about, what it is? It's Bobby Bowden. Who doesn't love Bobby Bowden, right? Yeah. And so, but what he built what he built there in Tallahassee is unmatched, and it's great to see it kind of coming back around. I was very sad about to watch what felt like just a torrential downpour. It was like, all right, well, they beat Georgia Tech. Well, it turns out Georgia Tech was actually a pretty good team, right? They lost to Boston College. Well, it turns out that Thomas Castellano is pretty bad. He's a pretty bad man. But then it just kind of kept going. It's like, dang, can we get there? In our early pods, we talked about it quite a bit, man, because I've never seen anything like it before. It's amazing to see, but it's really, really cool. And I'm certainly rooting for Norvell. Norvell went to the University of Central Arkansas, so a little bit of homegrown roots there within there in UC, coming from UCA. But no, man, definitely a blast. I can only imagine what you get to experience every day. It's really, really awesome. Tell us one more time where we can find you. Will McBroom, everyone.
Absolutely love it. Tomahawk Talk, like I said, live on 89.7 in Tallahassee if you're in the area, or anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple. Also the Graveyard Shift, kind of our spinoff, Tomahawk Talk, the Graveyard Shift, that is pre-recorded. A lot of different people on there, a lot of great voices that you'll probably see on TV in 5 to 10 years. So there, and then early returns, same thing wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram at Will McBroom. It's something like that. Type in Will McBroom. It should probably pop up. There can't be that many. And then same sort of thing on Twitter. I just had this happen with one of the people I interview where they didn't have their Twitter handle ready, and I'm just repeating the same thing. But you should be able to find me there. So yeah, anything like that. We love having any new fans come over and listen to. Especially building up the radio station is something that I really want to do in my year as director. So it's great.
Well, I appreciate the work you do, man. And I know there's a lot more in store for you, man. So I'm thankful that you took out the time to come hang out with us here at the Fanatic Sports Podcast, man. Much blessings and success to you, dude. I know you. I almost hesitate to say it because I know that there's too many good things headed your way to think otherwise, man. But thank you again for joining us. Thank you to everyone that's joined us on all of our ridiculous various media sites. The list is growing. I just feel like we should meet everyone where they are. So we're all over the place. We're like dust, Will. We're like dust. We're everywhere. But thank you to everybody that's joined us. And as I always say, man, tough times don't last. Tough people do. Thank y'all for watching the Fanatic Sports Podcast. Lots of unprofessionalism. We'll do. I promise we'll do better next time. That
was great. That was great. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks again, man.